Hey y'all, welcome back to our very bookish channel, and welcome to the final most anticipated releases of 2025. All right, y'all, so November 4th is packed. I have, let me just count them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, no, 6.
Six books on November 4th coming out. I'm so excited. The first one, the most exciting book for me in all of 2025 is Empire of the Dawn. I can't believe I got an arc. I love it. I'm so excited. This is the third and final book of the Empire of the Vampire trilogy by J. Kristoff. And this series, y'all, these books, they are just 6 stars. Like, the first 2 books, I just have loved so much. This is a very dark, very cold, very heart-wrenching, very violent world that this book takes place in, and you're following Gabriel, and he is a silver saint where he's a half a vampire, and he has been trained by the silver saints, and he's actually the only silver saint that's still left alive. And you're just getting his story of trying to slay these vampires. He has a sister that is also a supernatural type being. There is just everything in this book. There is romance, heartbreaking stories. There is found family aspects. There is like I don't want to call it magic, but there are supernatural aspects of this book. There's lots of fighting. There's adventure. There's just, the writing is so beautiful. If you all haven't read J. Kristoff's writing, it's just beautiful, and I like it, and I am going to be finishing this. I am not going to get it read in time to do an arc review for you guys. I suppose it could still be possible, but I just don't see myself having the time to sit, and I am going to take my time reading this book. It's just, the book is beautiful too. I do actually spend a lot of time looking at the pictures. I'm going to find one for you. There's not as many pictures in the arc as there are in the finished copy of the book. So I'm definitely going to be buying the Barnes & Noble edition of the finished copy. But let me just show you some of the drawings. All of the books have these beautiful artworks in them, and they're just dispersed throughout the whole book. And I love looking at them. And of course they depict a scene that's going on in the story. And wow, look at that. Look at this. I don't even think the camera is doing it justice. You guys have to see these in person, but beautiful. Just love it. Love it so much. Just the artwork is amazing. And he always like has these little details in his books. Here's another picture. And I just can't say enough about them. If you like grimdark fantasy, I think you should definitely check these books out. So Joe Abercrombie is sort of the king of grimdark fantasy, but his books are not, in my mind, his books are not as grimdark as this. I feel like this is more, to me, grimdark. Joe Abercrombie does have grimdark books, but they have a humor in them. There's not really a lot of humor. There is banter and funny things between the characters, but it's not humorous. This isn't a humorous book. It's a lot more grimdark than some of the Joe Abercrombie books that I've read. But y'all, I can't say enough about these books. Just go read it. I know they're thick. I know they're daunting. I know that they can be intimidating, but just start reading it, and I promise you won't want to stop. Comes out November 4th, by the way. I'm pretty sure I said that, but put November 4th on your calendar and go start this series. The series will be complete. You can read all 3 books in a row if you want and binge it. You might be emotional wreck afterwards, but November 4th, in case I forgot to tell you.
Hey guys, and welcome to our most anticipated for November and December 2025. It is the last one for 2025. And I can't believe how fast this year has gone. And just like last year, I know this happened in November and December typically. There's just not as many books coming out, at least in my interests, because obviously there are books coming out. It is the Christmas season. I feel like a lot of romance comes out at this time, and I dabble in romance. I am not a huge romance reader, but I don't have as many on my most anticipated for November and December. And I know that happened last year too. So this will be a quicker video, as long as I don't pontificate, because, you know, sometimes I like to just go on and on. The most I think that I have are actually on November 4th. So I'm going to be on November 4th for a while. I apologize in advance, because if Amanda doesn't have as many on November 4th, you're going to be seeing me for a while. The first one is from Christina Henry. It's called The Place Where They Buried Your Heart. Amanda and I did do a vlog with Christina Henry. It's the one and only book I've read by her so far, and it was The House That Horror Built. And I wasn't a huge fan of it. I feel like it might have been unfair to judge her based on just that one book. She has several like fairy tale retold. I know she did like Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, and this one sounds more in the vein though of the one that we read, The House That Horror Built, because it's another haunted house, another like horror type category for her, and the other ones are more fantasy. So I do feel like Amanda and I need to do a fantasy by her just to see what her fantasies are like. This one is about woman confronting the evil that has been terrorizing her street since she was a child. As kids daring each other to go into an abandoned house where bad things happened, Paul goes inside and never comes out. And I believe it's the main character's brother, and she feels a lot of guilt about it. I think she never ends up leaving, but then something else happens as she's an adult. And I think she's always wished and hoped that he would somehow come back out of that house. Everyone had thought, I think he was kidnapped or something. And so she knew the house pretty much took him in some way, shape, or form. This one sounded interesting again, but so did the other one. The premise sounded really interesting. I don't know. I feel like I still put it on here. I want to give her at least one more chance and see what happens. And even if I do read this one and I don't like it, I think I might still try her fantasy just to see what she's like. But we'll see.
So the next book is a book that I think Jen's going to also talk about, because we've spoken about this book together and we thought about doing a reading vlog for it. It's called The Place Where They Buried Your Heart by Christina Henry. Now, we did read The House That Horror Built by Christina Henry and we vlogged it, and I think we both felt that that book was just okay. It wasn't groundbreaking, earth-shattering, heart-stopping, wonderful book or anything. It was just okay. It wasn't like fantastic. But we do want to keep giving this author a chance, and well, I do, and I'm pretty sure Jen does too, because we talked about it and she's also interested in reading this book. But this is sort of a haunted house vibe, similar to The House That Horror Built, but it's about a young kid whose brother goes into this house and disappears and never comes out. They never find him, never find his body, and it's just this big mystery. She grows up, she moves away, and then she ends up coming back to the town for whatever reason, and she's trying to solve the mystery of what happened to her brother. And it just sounds like something that is intriguing to me. And like I said, the last book I read by this author was okay, but I think there's a lot of potential there, and I really want to try to read this book and see how this book compares to The House That Horror Built, and hopefully I will like this book a little bit more.
The next one is by an author that I read a book by that I really loved. It was a very compulsive thriller, and the author is Noelle Ihli, and I don't know if I'm mispronouncing it, but you'll see it on the screen. This one is called Forget You Saw Her, and it's the prequel for Ask for Andrea. So I saw this author in her book, and I think Ask for Andrea was the one, because she has several books out. And I do want to read more of her since there's a new one coming out, and it's a prequel to the book I read. I think it's the perfect one. But it was on the Frida McFadden Facebook page, and they're constantly giving book suggestions that are like Frida McFadden. And I would say this is definitely in the vein of, if you like Frida McFadden, you will like at least Ask for Andrea. I felt like it was a really great book. It really sucked me in. I finished it really quickly. So I am interested in the prequel to this. I am not going to go over what it's about. I did read kind of, but I feel like it almost gives too much information. I don't always like knowing too much information going into a book. So I've already kind of forgot some of the details, and by the time I get to it, I'm sure I won't really remember too much. But I am interested. If you like thrillers, I think you should check her Ask for Andrea out and check her other books out as well.
Next book coming out on November 4th is A Dark Forgetting by Kristen Ciccarelli. I think that's how you say her name, not sure. This is the author of the Crimson Moth duology, and I believe this is the first book of another duology. So I don't think this is a standalone. I do think it's a duology. Let me check and see. Just let me check. So I can't find any information saying that this is a duology or this is going to be part of a series. So I was wrong. I don't know where I got that from. I guess I was just sort of assuming since Crimson Moth was a duology, she was coming out with a new duology. However, I did find out that this book was originally published as Edgewood. So it's being rebranded. It was published as Edgewood in hardcover, and now it's coming out as A Dark Forgetting, and it's coming out in paperback. And it is new adult. This book grabbed my attention because, one, the author, I didn't necessarily like the Crimson Moth, the very first book, but I really loved Rebel Witch. I thought the second book was really fantastic, strong ending to Crimson Moth, so I liked the duology as a whole together, but the second book is really what drove it home for me. I was just sort of okay with the first book, but the second book was great. So when I saw that this author was coming out with another book, it piqued my interest. In this book, you're following a young woman whose grandfather gets kidnapped, and she sets out to find him. She has to travel through these woods that are inhabited by fae. And in the course of trying to look for her grandfather, she comes across a handsome fae, and he tries to deter her from going further, but she is ignoring him. She's like, my grandfather's in there. I have to get him out. And she ends up striking a deal with the Fae King for her grandfather's freedom. And it sort of reminded me of Beauty and the Beast. This is giving me Beauty and the Beast vibes, how, Belle's dad gets kidnapped, so she goes to the Beast and makes a bargain with him to free her dad. So it's giving me Beauty and the Beast vibes, but it also could go really different route. I have no idea, but this author does intrigue me. I really enjoyed her most recent book that she came out with, so I am interested in seeing this one. Like I said, it was originally published under a different name, but this is the new release of the paperback version under a new title.
Another one on November 4th is actually a fantasy, and it looks like it's going to be a gorgeous one. You'll see it on the screen. It's called Ship of Spells by H. Leighton Dickson. I'm going to try and read this description, and I even shortened it because it was a long description. A war-scarred mage, a sentient ship, a secret that could drown empires. Ren is rescued from the wreckage of her first naval post. She expects death or disgrace. Instead, she wakes aboard the Touchstone, a mythic vessel whispered of in dockside ballads, a mysterious elven captain, part Game of Thrones and world building of Samantha Shannon, who wrote The Priory of the Orange Tree. I haven't read Samantha Shannon, but I know she has a lot of popular fantasy books. They're also huge. I don't think Amanda has read any. I've been interested because I see so many people talking about it on Book Talk, but it's huge. I think it's over 1,000 pages. It's a slow burn tension of enemies who should never trust each other. I think a lot of what drew me to this is it sounds different than anything that I've read. It sounds mythical, which I am a fan of mythology. I don't know how much the romance and the enemies to lovers interest me in this, but it just sounded a little different. So I think I'm definitely going to check it out, and it's beautiful as well. So that never hurts. I don't know if Amanda wants to read it. I'm pretty sure I text her certain books when I see them on Edelweiss in my feed. And I'm not sure if this was one of the ones that I told her about, but if she didn't put it in hers, I feel like she would also want to read this, and we probably should do a vlog on this, but there's a lot on our plate, so I don't know if that will happen, but I do want to read this one.
Next book on November 4th is Ship of Spells. Jen drew my attention to this book. She said, I think this is a book you're gonna like. And of course, I read the first little blurb and said, yeah, I want this book on my list. The first blurb says, I'm sorry, the author is H. Leighton Dickson. Sorry, I forgot to tell you all the author, but it says Dickson's novel keeps readers on the edge of their seats with morally gray characters, action, and wonderful world building. Perfect for fans of Leigh Bardugo and Eric Morgenstern. Now, I love me some good morally gray characters. I just love book with morally gray characters. The action, I have to have a fast moving plot. You guys know I'm a huge fan of Leigh Bardugo. I love all of her books that I have read by her. And Eric Morgenstern wrote The Circus, I believe, and I did read that book and enjoy it. Or The Night Circus, that's what it is. Aaron Morgenstern wrote The Night Circus. I read that book and I really liked it as well. Both of those authors, Leigh Bardugo and Eric Morgenstern, have sort of darker vibes. Not maybe a little gothic. So I don't know. This is a pirate book, so I'm not really getting gothic from this book, but maybe just the darker sort of tone in the book. Also, I don't know when I'm going to get around to reading this book because I just finished Darkwater Daughter, which is also a pirate's story and takes place on the sea and pirates and all of that. So I don't know. It's not really a setting that I really, really want to just read all of and jump into, but it's fun for sometimes. And I just read Darkwater Daughter, so I don't know when I'm going to get to this soon, but if I have an itch for a pirate book or some book on the sea, I'm definitely keeping this one on my radar.
All right, another thriller for November 4th. This one's called Where He Left Me by NIcole Baart. A remote mountain cabin and Sadie's husband disappears with a storm coming and two strangers she has to deal with and ride the storm out. It was called Twisty and Atmospheric. I feel like thrillers are just something that I'm always going to be drawn to, and I tend to want to read a lot of thrillers, especially in the fall. But though this kind of feels like a plot that I have read before, where either the husband strands or someone is stranded, there's strangers, there's some kind of imminent threat, and you're trying to survive and figure out what's going on. And I think the strangers could possibly be potential murderers, of course. So that one is definitely on my list to read, and I don't know if I will get to it this year, but at least it'll go in the most anticipated jar and it'll be read at some point.
Also, November 4th is Blackthorn by J.T. Geissinger. Now, I'm going to be honest with you all. When I first saw this book listed as a new release, what grabbed me was the cover. I don't know what it is. I think I'm really liking gothic romantasy, gothic stories, that kind of setting, that kind of feel. I wouldn't think necessarily it's something that I would really enjoy, and I don't seek out gothic reads, but every single book that I have read that's had gothic vibes has been a really good book for me. I can't think of a single book that I haven't enjoyed that's had the gothic vibes. So when I saw this cover, I kind of thought, oh, this looks a little gothic. This looks very fun. Never read this author before. Let's check it out. And then the first sentence in the description reads, from the diabolical mind of New York Times bestselling author J.T. Geissinger comes a scorching new enemies to lovers romance filled with explosive secrets, nail-biting gothic suspense, and the dangerous lure of dark magic. So that grabbed me and I said, yes, I have to read that. I don't even need to read anymore because I like going into my book blind. I don't really like to know the synopsis or what's really taking place. Sometimes I do read further if I'm not sure yet, but I stopped there and I said, okay, this has to go on the list. For the sake of this video, I am going to read a little bit into the description and give you guys a little bit more information in case you're curious. But for me, that was all I needed to hear to put this on my most anticipated list. Okay, so the very next line says, you never forget your first love, especially when he's also your worst nightmare. This sounds so good. So basically this book is about a young woman who left town. Her mother had a suspicious death. She left town, and then she's drawn back because her grandmother has also passed away, and she is coming back for her grandmom's funeral. And when she gets into town, her grandmom's body is missing. And of course, she suspects the Croft family because they are rivals. They are rivals to her family. She suspected them for her mother's suspicious death, and she suspects them of having some kind of involvement with her grandmother's, at least, body disappearing. And she may have also in the past had feelings for one of the young men that's her age, but in that other family. So it says enemies to lovers, so I'm thinking that's sort of the enemies to lovers vibes. So my mind kind of instantly went to Romeo and Juliet, how they were like rival families, but Romeo and Juliet loved each other. Kind of the same enemies to lovers in that sense, because it's rival families, and the younger generation is sort of falling for each other. So I don't know, we'll see. It sounds good. It sounds good, and I really want to give this book a shot because it's really piqued my interest.
The next one is by an author that Amanda had read, and she did do an ARC review. The one she did was The Clinic, and the author is Kate Quinn. This one is called The Bridesmaid, also on November 4th. And this one said it was a pulse-pounding thriller about a society wedding turned deadly. A celebrity bridesmaid is murdered weeks before an exclusive society wedding, and forensic attorney Holly Stone is trying to investigate what happened. It's clear one of the other 5 hand-picked bridesmaids has committed the murder. I don't know why it's clear that one of the bridesmaids specifically has killed the person, or I should say the woman, but I guess I'll find out if I read it. There are a lot of secrets involved in this book, and also a destination wedding. I have still wanted to read The Clinic because Amanda praised it so much. For some reason, it wasn't grabbing my attention as much as it did for her that it took place in like an institution for the clinic. So that's why I think I have put it off and haven't read it. But this one sounded just, I don't know, something about it is interesting. I haven't really read a thriller involving a wedding. I think in the description it also mentioned for fans of The Unwedding, and I think Amanda also read that. I haven't read that, so it'll be interesting. I think I'm going to pick this one up and get it read either November or December.
For the next book, we're taking a break. We're taking a break from fantasy, and we're jumping into thrillers. And I have an art copy of this book, and I'm really excited to read it. It's called The Bridesmaid by Kate Quinn. I read The Clinic by Kate Quinn. I had an arc of her book. I also did a arc review on it. So if you like thrillers that are twisty turny shorter chapters, I recommend The Clinic. Go check out my arc review. But The Bridesmaid is her newest book coming out, and I can't wait. I feel like this book, if this reads like The Clinic, I'm gonna devour this book in like a day or two. It takes no time at all. She has short chapters. They're very fast. They end on cliffhangers. You want to keep going. You get sucked right in. I just love those kind of thrillers, just like Frida McFadden thrillers. And this book takes place in a secluded resort where the guests are attending a wedding and someone ends up dead. So it's also a closed door mystery because you're kind of trapped on this island in this resort, and you're trying to figure out who the murderer is. And I just can't wait to see what all the twists and turns are going to be in this book, and everyone that attended the party, all their dirty little secrets that come out.
Next one is also November 4th. It's also a thriller. And it's the author of The Overnight Guest, which I did read, and I did really like that one. This one's called The Perfect Hosts by Heather Gundenkauf. It's about a couple, and this one sounded really interesting because it almost sounds, I don't know, kind of crazy. A couple's gender reveal party turns deadly, and everyone is a suspect in this gripping thriller. Pistol and Pearl's party of 200 guests. That's what it's called, a Pistol and Pearl's party. Agent Jamie Saldano is brought to the scene to investigate, and she ends up uncovering a web of deceit, a lot of secrets, of course, and it's seemingly, even though it seems accidental that the death happened, it then seems like it could have been intentional based on one of the 200 guests intending to kill the person that ends up, or I think it was supposed to be someone else and not who actually ends up murdered. I can't remember. I try not to read too much. I try and skim the explanation just because I don't want to read the whole book in the explanation. I want to be kind of surprised by what happens. So did sound interesting. I liked her other book. I think this one will be good as well.
The next book is The Perfect Host by Heather Gundenkauf. This author wrote The Overnight Guest, which I did read and enjoyed. This is a thriller book, and I think she wrote Everyone is Watching, which I also read and enjoyed. So I am thinking that this book I am going to read and enjoy. I'm hoping. We'll see. In this thriller, you're at a gender reveal, and this is a very wealthy, powerful couple, and the wife is obviously having a baby, and they're having a big huge party to reveal the gender to the world, and something goes wrong and someone ends up dead. And you're trying to kind of solve this mystery and uncover all of the secrets. So this is super intriguing to me. I kind of love these domestic type thrillers. I also really like when it's like rich people drama. I don't know what it is, but it just seems like there's so many little dirty secrets that come out with these types of books. And I have read this author. I have liked reading these books in the past, so I feel like this could be a really good book to look forward to in November.
The next one I was a little bit on the fence about, because it almost seems like Hallmark and schmaltzy, and sometimes that works and I am interested, sometimes it doesn't. It's a little too Hallmarky, but it's called The Forget-Me-Not Library by Heather Weber, and I think I said that it is also on November 4th. There's a lot on November 4th, as I warned you. Two women's lives converge after both have life-altering circumstances happen. Juliet has recovered from a lightning incident and decides on taking a road trip. So a woman gets struck by lightning, she's recovering, decides that she needs to embrace life and do what she wants because I guess she was on the brink of death from getting hit by lightning. And Tallulah must rebuild after her husband decides their marriage is over, and she moves with her two girls in with her grandfather and starts a job at the place that's called the Forget-Me-Not Library. And I think the town or something is called Forget-Me-Not, which is a little weird. It seems so Hallmark. I don't know. I'm on the fence with this one. It may end up not getting read until I pull it out of the TBR jar, but we'll see. Maybe I'll feel like schmaltzy in November or December, and I will decide to pick it up or listen to it on audio. Who knows?
Hey y'all, it's your girl editing Amanda here, and before I jump into this next book, I have one more book to add to November 4th, and I'm a little bit embarrassed that I forgot about this book because it is one of my most highly anticipated books of 2025, and that is The Blackfire Blade by James Logan. To be fair, I only got this arc a few days ago, and it is cutting it pretty close because the release date is November 4th. But I read The Silver Blood Promise and was just blown away. I was just blown away by the fun world. There's magic. There's found family. The storyline is there's a guy whose father passes away and his father leaves him this note and asks him to track something down or investigate something. I'm not trying to give a lot away, but if you want to know more, then go check out my review of The Silver Blood Promise. And I can't believe I left it off the list, but you know, editing Amanda to the rescue, jumping in and putting it on here.
All right, the next one is actually a republished novel. It came out in 1961. It's called The Ha Ha by Jennifer Dawson. I have it on my official November TBR that is in the November TBR video that I want to read it because I'm really interested. And this one actually comes out November 11th. So we have moved on from November 4th. As I said, it was originally published in 1961. I think that it got overshadowed by Sylvia Plath and The Bell Jar. And it did say that it was similar, and if you like The Bell Jar, that you would enjoy this. It's also semi-autobiographical, which Sylvia Plath was as well. At least it was thought to be. I don't know if she officially said that. And explores a young woman's struggle with mental illness at Oxford University in the 1950s. And there's something about, if you watch our channel, I say this several times, there's something about the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s with how women were treated, especially with how women were pretty much made to just stay in the kitchen and not really have lives beyond being a perfect housewife. To help them, a lot of things happened, and there was something called the Little Mother's Helper, which were pills. I think basically it was like Xanax to make women kind of compliant. And There's something about that I like reading stories about that time period and about how women, what they had to go through and the experiences that they had during that time period. That's what drew me to this. I actually did my college tutorial because I was an English and psych major, and I researched depression and how it affected women's psychology, and it was represented in both memoir with Prozac Nation, Elizabeth Wurtzel, and how it was depicted in fiction, and I had used The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. So I feel very drawn to the subject matter because I had studied it when I was in college. I definitely want to read this one because I hate when I hear of a book now and I had not heard of it back then. I mean, especially being an English major, I never heard of this book. So it was recently rediscovered, the republishing it, and I am very interested in making sure I read it now.
Okay, so moving on, November 11th. This is a book that I almost didn't put on here. It's sort of giving me general fiction vibes, but I don't know, the story intrigues me. So you're following a woman who gets the news that her sister's murderer is being freed from prison. So she has been anticipating this moment. She grabs her gun and starts heading to London. Like, she's trying to hunt this man down because she wants revenge for him killing her sister. But on the flip side, he knows he's being hunted by her. He's kind of expecting it. He knows she's going to want her revenge. They start playing this cat and mouse game, and you're also getting his side and his view of the story, where you may uncover like more secrets as to why he killed her sister or what he was thinking, what he was doing. You are getting more of his side of the story too as the story moves along. So I don't know, we'll see. I am intrigued. I love a good revenge arc. Okay, I love a good revenge arc. So that part of the book intrigued me. But I don't know. It's sort of giving me general fiction vibes, and I'm just not sure. It's also giving me thriller vibes though. So we'll see. If I start this book and don't like it, it could be one that I end up DNFing, but it piqued my interest just enough to put it on this list and keep it on my radar. Also coming out on November 11th is The Strength of the Few by James Islington. I have been anticipating this book for so long. The Will of the Many was a 5-star read for me. That was the first book in the Hierarchy series. This is the second book coming out, and I am not going to talk much about the second book. I just want to talk more about the series in general. You're following a young man who's going to this college, I would call it, and he's competing with other students, and he gets into this, he starts solving this mystery around the school. Let's just put it that way. But this story is so fun. It does have some like tear-jerking, heartbreaking moments, as any really good fantasy would. I mean, you guys know, like, when you read fantasies, you have to expect some of your favorite characters to get hurt or worse. So, I mean, that's just how it rolls. It's just one of the things that we love about these books. And I just really enjoyed it and have been really looking forward to this next book coming out. It's definitely something that is a high priority on my TBR.
I do have some electronic arcs for some of these, and I actually forgot and didn't make notes. So I don't remember how many I actually have electronic arcs of, but I do have a physical arc of I, Medusa. I am a mythology fan. This one, I'm sure you guys have heard of Medusa, and it's a new kind of villain origin story, reimagining one of the most iconic monsters in Greek mythology, a provocative and powerful young heroine, exploding with rage and heartbreak and love. And I feel like this one's going to be really interesting. I do have the physical arc, so I'm excited to read this one. It comes out November 18th, and I hope to get it read and do an arc review. We all know how that goes sometimes. I don't know if I'm gonna have time, but we'll see. And then you can see it on our channel. If not, I'm sure it'll be in a recap if I get to it.
And just like that, y'all, I just have one more book in November. Not too many books coming out in November and December that I'm really excited for, but this is definitely one that I am going to read, and that's Brimstone. This is the follow-up to Quicksilver by Callie Hart, and I really enjoyed Quicksilver. We did read that for One Viral Book to Opinion in Under 10 Minutes series that we do. I think I might have liked the book a little bit more than Jen, but I know that Jen did like Quicksilver, and I'm pretty sure she's also going to be anticipating this book coming out so that we can continue the series. If you all want us to maybe vlog us reading this book, we can maybe buddy read it and vlog it for you guys. Let us know, because we did do the One Viral Book series with Quicksilver, so possibly we'll do the One Viral Book series again. We can read it and just give you opinion, or we could turn it into a vlog. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, guys, we are trying to hold off on the vlogs for the last half of the year so we can get all caught up, but let us know. Let me know what you think. I'm always interested in what you all want to see, so feel free to comment below.
So on November 18th is a big sequel to a very popular book. I told Amanda we may end up having to do this for our viral series, where we read viral books and talk about our opinions in under 10 minutes. I don't know if we can do a full vlog, but you know, it's a possibility. And it's Brimstone by Callie Hart, which is the follow-up to Quicksilver. And it's number 2 in the Fae and Alchemy series. It's the continuing saga of Ceres and Kingfisher. I don't know if I can really sum up exactly what was happening in Quicksilver, but I was very entertained by that book. It's not normally the type of book I would be drawn to. I had heard a couple people I work with talking about it, and it seemed to be very popular, so I did pick it up, and I was just very entertained. I thought it was a really good book. So I do have to somehow not reread the book, because I definitely don't have time for that. But I need to do some kind of recap that's a little detailed so that I can go into Brimstone knowing what's going on. But, you know, with Fourth Wing, I wasn't doing that. I was just going in blind, and, you know, there was a pretty big gap between Iron Flame and Onyx Storm, and it did hurt a little bit. I was very confused for a while. So I do have to find a way to do that without having to reread it. So I don't know. We'll see. If you guys know, if you're a fan of that kind of thing, if you are reading series and you have any advice on how to do, I'm sure there's some kind of recap video either on YouTube or on Book Talk. I hope so anyway. But if you have any advice or any suggestions as to who to follow or what videos to look at, please put it in the comments. All right, November 18th, another thriller. Surprise, surprise. It's called Made You Look by Tanya Grant. It's a Catskills retreat turning deadly for a group of influencers when a snowstorm cuts off their greatest resource, their followers, which I'm assuming the power goes out and they're not able to get a signal just as a killer strikes. And as I said before, this seems to be like a common theme of people getting stranded, cut off from, you know, whatever. They then have to survive. It's a very common one. I feel like Frida has a couple books like that. I think The Intruder was kind of like that just came out. So yes, I tend to be interested in that trope. Either I'll be reading it in the next couple months or it'll come out of the most anticipated jar. The next one is actually nonfiction. I've been sprinkling in nonfiction my whole year. I think I've read more nonfiction this year than most years. And I just like to widen my interest and read whatever I can. This one is called Nightmare Obscura by Michelle Carr. It comes out November 18th. When I was younger, what first attracted me to psychology and why I studied it in college is because I was obsessed with dreams and what they could mean and why they happen, kind of like brain science, I guess. I was very nerdish about it. And this one is also going over that subject. And it says, A Dream Engineer's Guide Through the Sleeping Mind. A leading sleep expert reveals the latest science behind the dreaming brain and why we have nightmares. And when I did dreams, I didn't really study or didn't really look at nightmares. So this one seemed interesting because it specifically seems to focus on nightmares. So I am very interested in that, and I plan on picking that up and reading it. And now also on November 18th, I'd like to do a huge shout out for Sophie Cousens. If you watch our channel, you know I am a huge fan of hers. I read The Good Part back in December of 2023, and I absolutely fell in love with it to the point that I have read every single one of her books. I was lucky enough to get an electronic ARC of her new one, which is called And Then There Was You. I have an ARC review posted on our channel. She does differ a little bit in her storytelling with this one, and I don't want to say why. It felt like kind of a twist, and I wasn't expecting that from her, and I very much enjoyed that. But also, I am over the moon right now because she's going on book tour, and she's literally going to a bookstore that's only an hour away from me. I already bought tickets, and Alex is going with me, who I work with. Thank you, Alex. I am super excited about it. I am over the moon excited, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about how much I am going to enjoy getting a chance to see her talk about her books for an hour, but also get a chance to meet her. I have conversed with her on Instagram through our Fiction Addictions Instagram. If you're not following us on Instagram, please do. I know Amanda, I think, tends to put our socials in the comments because we also have a TikTok, we also have a Facebook. But I had conversed with her a few times because I just told her how much I loved reading the book and that I was posting an ARC review of the book. And I believe she's from Australia too. So I'm just so excited, if you can't tell, that I am going to get a chance to meet her. I do plan on vlogging it, so hopefully that works out. And I will post it after the day, the event, which is Wednesday, December 3rd. I am just crazy excited. So yeah, stay tuned for that.
All right, December 2nd, A Kiss of Hammer and Flame by Amy de la Force. This is the first book of a duology. The second book is coming out July, I think, of 2026. And this book sounded interesting. This book actually in the description listed a bunch of tropes, and a lot of them are all tropes that I like. So that's what kind of drew my attention to this book. So you're basically following a young woman who's a blacksmith, and she is tasked to create a sword, and when she creates the sword, she accidentally awakens a immortal being. So kind of like a god, I'm guessing. And this awakening this god causes all these troubles. And I think she's the only one that can put him back to sleep or make the troubles go away. So she starts on this adventure, and she takes this adventure with the guy that asked her to create the sword to begin with. So there's a little bit of romance. Might be, I think it said love triangle, which isn't necessarily something I enjoy, but let me look and see. If it's done right, it's okay. I'm not always hating love triangles, but typically I don't go for love triangles and look for them, but sometimes in books they work. So let me see. Just want to read you some of the tropes that are in this book. Strong female lead, love triangle. So yeah, there's a love triangle. Slow burn, forbidden love, Hades and Persephone, fated mates, age gap, just a couple hundred years. Which I am not a fan of age gap at all, unless it's like, you know, a fae or a vampire or some kind of supernatural being. That doesn't bother me. But if this is like a contemporary book and there's an age gap, I don't like that at all. Found family, love found family. And it says this is a sizzling, action-packed romantasy perfect for fans of Northwind, A Throne of Glass, and the Book of Azrael, which I have not read the Book of Azrael, but I have heard really good things about it. And it is a book that I do want to read. I do have the ebook on my Kobo, so hopefully I will be reading that one because it is something I've been interested in. So, but y'all know that I love Sarah J. Maas, and I'm currently reading the Throne of Glass series, so that also intrigued me. Just a lot of things about this. It is a duology. The next book's coming out in July, so you only have to wait about 6-7 months before the next book comes out. And honestly, unless I pull this out of the TBR jar, I might wait until the second book comes out because I like to just read my duologies back to back, both my books back to back, and even trilogies. I will just binge the whole trilogy. I think that's one of the best ways to do it. So maybe I'll wait. But this book definitely hit a lot of points for me.
All right, we're moving all the way into December. I only have 2 left. I only have 2 in December, and they both are on December 2nd. And the first one, I don't know. There was something about it I kept thinking that I may not end up reading it or liking it, but I didn't want to take it off of here. It's called The Library of Fates by Margot Harrison, and it's about a librarian keeper mysteriously dies, and 2 classmates must race to locate a rare book that can foretell their future if you confess a secret. So there's some book that if you confess a secret, it will tell your future, which that's the part I felt like was really interesting. And I think that's why I left it on here, because I just feel like that's kind of cool in terms of a plot point. They're racing to get this book because it is missing after the librarian keeper was found murdered or dies. And they are intent on protecting what's hidden inside, which I don't know if there's more than just that magic that's hidden inside, but it sounded interesting. I'm just worried it's not going to live up, because as soon as I read that, I thought, oh my God, this is a really cool concept, and I bet this is going to be a really good book. But then I always think, oh, sometimes when I have that high expectation, it doesn't live up to it. So it's a constant fight to make sure my expectation isn't too high, because, you know, that doesn't feel good when you go into a book and then it's not living up to the expectation. If I don't get it read in December, then I definitely will pull it out of the most anticipated jar, TBR jar, and then get it read then. The weather's changing, so I am fighting for my life trying to keep my throat clear because of allergies. And it always happens when the seasons change. So I feel like my voice is just wanting to be raspy and go out. I apologize because I feel like I have to keep clearing my throat, so I have to keep pausing.
On December 2nd, another book that Jen pointed out to me, she said, I think you need to take a look at this. I think you're going to like it. It's called Dawn of the Firebird by Sarah Mughal Rana. And this book sounds really cool. There's a young woman who is grown up training to follow in her dad's footsteps. He is the emperor, or very high-ranking ruler of their kingdom. But the kingdom is currently at war, and some of her clansmen, which she's grown close to, end up dying. So she decides to destroy the enemy. She wants her revenge for her friends getting murdered. So she disguises herself and gets into the enemy's military training school. And her plan is to destroy them from within. But there is one little hitch. She ends up falling for one of the enemies. So it is a typical sort of romantasy arc. Little enemies to lovers in there. But I think this book sounds cool, and I had to put it on the list.
All right, last but not least, Watch Us Fall by Christina Kovac, also December 2nd. And the quote was from Angie Kim. She wrote, I didn't write it down, but she wrote a book that I've been wanting to read. I haven't read it yet, and I'm completely forgetting. I'll put it on the screen because I'm forgetting. But the quote is from her, and she said, a stunning work of suspense that's impossible to put down, a twisty missing persons mystery, a heartbreaking love story, and an insightful exploration of the nature of obsession and trauma. And it's about 4 friends known as the Sweeties who are living together, and an ex-boyfriend goes missing. Lies and delusions lurk underneath, and you find out what happened and if one of them were involved. So it sounded interesting for sure. And I felt like it's just another thriller that's caught my interest, and I felt like it might be something that I really like.
The next book on my list, also coming out December 2nd, is probably the romantasy I am most excited for. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. It's up there. It's really high up there. This is called We Who Will Die by Stasia Stark. And this book, I don't know. I honestly don't know what it's about. I want to go into this book blind, but the very beginning of the description says it's a Roman-inspired world ruled by merciless vampires. Who doesn't want to read that? I know, right? What is wrong with me? I just think that sounds super fun. I have really enjoyed all of the Roman-inspired gladiator type books that I've read. In fact, Bloodguard is a book I read and really loved, and the MMC in that book is a gladiator, and I love those male characters that are just very ruthless and very protective and touch her and you die type characters. So I really liked Bloodguard. I enjoyed that book, and I am looking forward to this. I'm expecting it to be kind of like that, but obviously it's got vampires in it too. So that just seemed like a weird combination that also is not weird at all, because they're both very brutal worlds and brutal beings. Like, I can't believe no one's thought of this before at the same time. So this book sounds so cool. I really excited about getting to this book. I think I'm probably going to read this book by the end of the year because it is at the top of my TBR. Oh, I do have one more book. I almost forgot. It's called Fallen Gods by Rachel Van Dyken, and it comes out December 2nd. I'm just going to read the description of this book because there's no way I can do it justice. They said the gods were myth, that giants were only stories told around dying fires. They lied. The gods aren't dead, they're only sleeping, locked in mortal bodies, scattered across the world, waiting for the right spark to wake them, and my Father is the most ruthless of them all. He raised me to obey, to bleed, to be his blade when the time came. Now he's sending me to Endor University, a place filled with ancient bloodlines and deadly secrets, to steal back Mjolnir, the hammer of a legend. If I fail, everyone I love dies. But Eric Erickson wasn't part of the plan. He's the enemy's heir, distant, dangerous, and the one person I can't afford to fall for. He closed himself off completely behind a wall of ice, but the more I'm ordered to unravel him, the harder it becomes to remember where the lies end and I begin. So that sounds cool. I like the idea of these gods and giants in the same world. I also like the idea that this one girl is sent on this mission by her father, who is a god, to do something. I mean, I can't say I really understand what the mission is. I don't think it really details the mission, but she is sent to a university. I do like a university setting where there's other students and it's competitive. So she's sent to this university to infiltrate it and complete this mission that a lot of people are relying on her to complete. But again, she falls for the enemy. So I guess I'm just a sucker for the enemies to lovers trope. I don't know. Lots of books where they fall for the enemy. But here we are. These are the books that I am interested in November, December. What are you guys interested in? What books do you think should be at the top of my TBR and my first priority for when these get released? I really want to know.
All right, are there any books we didn't go over that you think that we should be reading or should know about? I did kind of scour, and those were the books that I came up with. Also, which one of these do you want to read? And put them in the comments. We'd love to hear from anyone's thoughts and opinions. We do have a lot of videos coming out. I'm sure we're going to do something Christmassy in December, so keep an eye out for that as well. And then we're also going to be summing up our year, I'm sure, with some kind of best of video. Thanks guys for watching, and until next time.